Going on about the conclusion, it wasn't announced. Well, who was it? Just a couple people in the determinations unit? No. You can't go by that. We don't even know what that means. And the White House was notified of the IRS targeting the Tea Party several weeks ago. Why? Just a few rogue employees in the determinations unit. I went back during the break and looked at this Inspector General report. I don't even know how many employees are in the determinations unit. It doesn't say. I don't know how many people they interviewed in the determinations unit. It doesn't say. I don't know how many specialists are in the determinations unit. It doesn't say. Why not? What's so hard? So we'll have a lot of questions, and hopefully Congress will do its job. I mean, here's an example. I'm looking at the Daily Caller. Charles C. Johnson, who's a terrific guy. We had him on the program with his wonderful Coolidge book. He's a great writer. He's a good man. He's got a breaking article there right now. IRS official Lerner, this Lois Lerner, the senior IRS official, speedily approved exemption, for Barack Obama brothers' charity. Lois Lerner, the senior IRS official at the center of the decision to target Tea Party groups for burdensome tax scrutiny, signed paperwork granting tax-exempt status to the Barack H. Obama Foundation, a shady charity headed by the president's half-brother that operated illegally for years. And by the way, the middle name that I assigned to Obama, when you weren't allowed to say Hussein and now you are, Milhouse, fits pretty nicely, doesn't it? Barack Milhouse Hussein Obama. According to the organization's filings, Lerner approved the foundation's tax status within a month of its filing, an unprecedented timeline that stands in stark contrast to conservative organizations that have been waiting for more than 3 years in some cases for approval. Now, folks, I read certain sections, if you were listening the first hour, of this report to you. Whatever faith I had in the Internal Revenue Service as a professional organization, I don't have today. Do you? Do you? This is Mickey Mouse stuff. That's their defense. We suck. We're incompetent. We're not trained. We don't know how to manage. That's their defense. Oh, okay, let's give them Obamacare. Their defense is they're incapable of doing their jobs. And that's the best case they can make. Incredible. IRS official Lerner also appears to have broken with the norms of tax-exempt approval by granting retroactive tax-exempt status to Barack Obama's organization. The National Legal and Policy Center, which is another excellent group, filed an official complaint with the IRS in May 2011 asking why the foundation was being allowed to solicit tax-deductible contributions when it had not even applied for an IRS determination. And in a New York Post article dated May 8, 2011, an officer of the foundation admitted, quote, "We haven't been able to find someone with the expertise to apply for the tax-exempt status." Nevertheless, a month later, the Barack H. Obama Foundation had flown through the grueling application process, so this is at exactly the same time that Tea Party groups were being targeted and put upon. The Barack H. Obama Foundation flew right through the process. They were granted a 501c determination and even given it retroactively back to December 2008. And Charles Johnson's reporting the group's available paperwork suggests an extremely hurried application and approval process. For example, the group's 990 filings, their tax return, for 2008 and 2009 were submitted to the IRS in May 30, 2011, and its 2010 filing was submitted in May 23, 2011. And Lerner signed the group's approval on June 26, 2011. Boom, 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 in. He reports that it's illegal to operate for longer than 27 months without an IRS determination and solicit tax-deductible contributions. And he says the group wasn't even registered in Virginia, despite the foundation's website including a donation button. And it goes on, and we will link to this. What a cesspool. I don't know what else to call it. What an absolute cesspool. It's obvious conservatives are treated one way, and Obama-affiliated entities, what have you, are treated another way. Just a disgrace. Our friend Representative Hulskamp, now Hulskamp is solid as a rock, and he said after reading the Inspector General's report connecting the IRS to illicit targeting of the Tea Party, and I'm reading it, other conservative organizations between 2010 and 2012, he said the report was more scathing than initial media reports indicated. It reveals a rogue administration corrupted by politicization and lawlessness, with the addition of IRS Gate and AP phone tap gate and so forth. They besieged the White House. The legacy of the 44th president is beginning to resemble that of Nixon. Although I could defend Nixon far more than I could defend this. The report is damning in the sense that, I mean, the best case you can make out of this report is one page after another condemning the management, the training, the logic, the appropriateness of one of the major divisions of the Internal Revenue Service. And again, I have to ask you folks this question, and we talked about it on Monday. This organization is being handed Obamacare to enforce. This is another reason to repeal Obamacare. I don't just mean a vote like Eric, hey, let's vote to repeal, and then we'll send it to Harry Reid. That's no. You have to defund it. You have to use the purse strings that the House uniquely has under Article 1. And that's how you address it. Obamacare is already a disaster. Can you imagine marrying up the IRS, which this IG report concludes, I mean, if you make a rational conclusion from it, is completely out of control, utterly incompetent. You marry that up with Obamacare? The Determinations Unit. We don't even know how many people work there, why they're specialists. We don't know anything about this unit. And the Inspector General report really doesn't tell us anymore. So now the ball's in the Congress's court, which means really the House of Representatives. So we'll see if they're up to it. I can already tell you Boehner is not up to the Benghazi investigation. Not up to the Benghazi investigation. But before I get to that, we have the AP scandal going on. By the way, I'm not one of those that say that you should investigate media outlets when they illegally and criminally take government top-secret information from somebody and splash it all over their pages. What I'm saying is, in this case, it was way overboard, the broad attack on a news outlet. Absolutely unacceptable. And Obama should know that, folks. I have in front of me a June 28, 2006 transcript where Alan Combs was talking to Senator Barack Obama. June 28, 2006, shortly after Obama was elected to the Senate. You know, he'd been a backbencher in the Illinois Senate, voting for after-birth abortion, or whatever the hell that is. Alan Combs, you concur with the earlier part of the statement that we are indeed in a McCarthy-type era based on how this administration is behaving. He's talking about the Bush administration. Obama responds, I think that, as far as I can tell, nobody's being blacklisted. There's a mood in the country where dissent is considered unpatriotic. And I think that's a dangerous move. I think we want to have a situation in which dissent is perceived as part and parcel of who we are as a people and what our democracy is about. And that we can have vigorous disagreements without assuming that, you know, the other side is somehow venal or doesn't love their country. And I think that's probably what Howard was trying to address. That's Howard Dean. Combs, my concern is that we have an administration, the Bush administration, that is venal toward those who may be anti-war, called unpatriotic, treasonous. You know, have an administration who has made disparaging comments about the New York Times because the New York Times, they claim, published classified information. Obama, right. Combs, is that a proper target? Obama, I would advise the president to be cautious about beating up on the press for doing their job. Now, the president's not the only one who does it. There are a lot of liberals who complain about, you know, your TV station, right? And Combs. And conservatives who complain about other TV stations. Obama. You know, so everybody's got an axe to grind when it comes to the press. My attitude is, let the press do its job. And that, you know, in fact, a lot of the problems that have arisen in terms of leaks and so forth have to do with just the extraordinary unwillingness of the president and this administration to commit itself to any kind of oversight from anybody. This is Obama. I mean, it's not just that they don't want the New York Times leaking stories about their activities. They also don't want to share it with Congress. They don't want to share it with the Senate Intelligence Committee. They don't want to share it with the Foreign Intelligence Court that's been set up to evaluate these issues. I mean, there is this sense, and by the way, I think conservatives be just as concerned as liberals, because this notion of secrecy is a fundamental violation of that most conservative principle in the United States, which is nobody is above the law. That is newly elected Senator Barack Obama, June 28, 2006. Now that I've read it, I'm sure all the producers for all the other shows are going to be looking for the audio. We didn't have time. But that said, let's look at today. You know what we have today? I'm prepared to say it. We have a quasi-police state. I'm not overstating it. With the Internal Revenue, anybody who pays taxes in this country, I know it's a shrinking number of us, it is outrageous what this tax code requires us to present the government with. And now that you've heard me read from parts of the Inspector General's report, look how they treat us. Look how shabbily they treat us. And their biggest defense is we're incompetent, we're mismanaged, we don't know what the hell we're doing, we violate our own rules. But don't worry, we didn't do anything with a corrupt heart. What the hell are you talking about? Our own health care decisions cannot be made without the government signing off on them. That is now the IRS. More and more you look around, you really think about it, whether it's light bulbs or shower heads or toilets or water flow or toasters or automobiles. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean to upset you. My purpose is not to be controversial, but honest. Yes, I feel more and more this is a quasi-police state.